Welcome to Dine with the Divine. I'm your host, Ashley, and together we'll be talking about everything magical, mystical, culture, and everything else in between. So in today's episode, we'll be talking a little bit about shadow work and a lady of the night. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great week, and if it's not good, I hope it gets better. So today we have a great guest. Her name is Nikki, and Nikki is a queer, Boston-based content creator, life and business coach, astrologer, and hypnotherapist with a focus on shadow work and subconscious healing. Hi, Nikki. How you doing?
Hi, I am good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm living the dream. When I have people on, I always ask them the first thing is like, how did you even get started with any of this? Like, how did this happen for you?
Oh, I love that phrasing of how did this happen for you? Because it just happens sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, in terms of like where I'm at in my business and also just getting into like spirituality and shadow work, my upbringing was I went to Catholic school, and so that Catholic school to gay witch pipeline is just real.
Sorry, that's funny. Catholic school to gay witch pipeline. I have seen it though. I know.
Catholicism is there's so much incense, it's very witchy.
I always tell people my first introduction to magic it was Catholic Church because it's so ritualistic. It's just like it is literally it's Christian magic basically, except they just pretend it's not. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right, because they also are like, this is body and blood for real.
Yeah, you're like, what? Okay, that's fine. It's kind of weird, but okay, cool.
Yeah. So that was interesting, and felt like I had to follow like a traditional and just overachiever kind of path, which I was up until a certain point. I studied communications. I worked in corporate PR and marketing, and also once I had just had this super busy overachiever path until I graduated college. It was definitely like, wow, when I didn't have like when I only had a job to go to and I didn't have all of this other stuff, and just like really being alone with your thoughts, with my thoughts for the first time. Started therapy and started unpacking some things. Then I started my business after 3 years of corporate PR as a social media manager, and that was 4 years ago. And I just kept following the next, I'm a manifesting generator in human design, so just following the next bit of inspiration, to going from social media management to social media and marketing coaching to business coaching, to like my business really was the thing that turned me from just meeting the people that I met and starting to I traded with a Reiki healer for some, and I did some social media, and very early on in my business, and business just brings up so much to heal, and I had already worked on body image things, so that was the next thing. Reiki was on top of the just traditional therapy that I was going to. Was really it just was one of those moments where I was like, wow, this feels like I should have quote unquote felt in church all of those years, just like all of just connecting with spirit and all of that, and yourself and your subconscious just felt so right. So like my personal healing journey and my journey of getting certified and helping people has been parallel. In 2021, I was full-time business coaching at that point, but my business coaching was always more thoughts and beliefs and feelings based or forward. So I got a big certification of life and success coaching and a bunch of modalities and Reiki attunement and clinical hypnotherapy and emotional freedom technique. And then in September 2021 up until last June, I was in a big course where I learned astrology and human design, and now obviously that's like a lifelong, it's all a lifelong practice, because there's so much to learn there. So I really have liked fine tuning my how I help people and just unlearning and healing so much more within myself, like healing through burnout and perfectionism and interpersonal relationships and people pleasing and things. So yeah, now it just became more apparent, and I've just really honored that more and more of that that the way I help people is they don't have to just be entrepreneurs. I have life coaching clients too, and like the lens is really just sifting through being in the stuff that you don't want to always see about yourself, the shadow.
Amen to everything you said. Okay, where to begin? Because there's so many interesting things you just said. It's interesting how you said having your own, starting with your own business, it brought up so many things. I think when somebody starts their own business, even though it doesn't matter what the business is, it's like you're relying on yourself now. So you have to like really truly believe in yourself. And then sometimes you're like, oh shit, I actually don't believe in myself. You're like, ooh, actually, I don't know if I can actually handle or do all these things. And then I'm having a crisis. It's very scary.
Yep.
Yes, because you're like,
So
oh
fun.
shit. I know. I remember thinking like with a lot of things with business, but what if I accomplish all the things I want to? That's the scariest thing I've ever thought of in my life.
Yep.
I think a lot of that comes from, I feel like a lot of people could probably relate to this. You're so used to like fighting. I mean, I gotta get to the top. I gotta do better. That when you're like, you think to yourself, if I do get to where I want to be, what else am I gonna do then?
Yeah, that's a big part of the fear of success and that's sneaky because we're not used to thinking that's what we would be afraid of. And so yeah, a lot of times it's because we're just used to, we don't know what it's like to not be struggling for something. And also then it brings up a lot of like perception stuff of, you're also used to being seen as someone in that space, and then basically people's perceptions of you, or you're opening yourself to that, and you have to see yourself differently as well when you
Yes.
succeed.
Yes. And you have to like looking at yourself. Yeah, it's all very complicated. And it, like you said, it all goes back to a lot of things, like the way you grew up, the way you always looked at yourself, the way people told you were supposed to be. And then you get older, even if you grew up like I grew up with not a lot of money, and I always think to myself, if I had a lot of money, like I feel like I wouldn't know how to function in that space. Like, just because I'd be like, I am so used to being like, we don't have money. Like, even when I have been fine, anytime I'm like financially okay, I'm still like in that mode of, oh, don't spend that much money. Like, we can't. So it's like, you have to learn a whole new way of living and learn what's okay, and then learn how to like stay like level in that space too. You can't go to either extreme. It's not good, but I think it's all about trying to learn how to like find middle ground in any of that. And it can be so complicated. And I think that's why a lot of people, I think any major change warrants therapy. I think in any major change in your life, because if it's never happened to you, you may not know how to handle it, and that's fine. Like, then you go to a professional who can be like, let's sort out why you can't handle this, or let's give you some really great coping mechanisms so you can handle it. Yeah, but even with business, I think that's a major change for people. If people start their own business, now you have to rely on you. That's a major change. And another thing you said that I wanted to touch on. So human design is so big right now. Like, everybody's doing human design. A friend of mine does human design, and when she did my chart for me, and I know, like, she just did the chart, so she told me a couple little things. I didn't pay her, so she didn't tell me too much, which is fine. I didn't want her to. I was like, I need to pay you. Don't tell me too much. But she was like, I'm like a manifesting generator too. Yeah. Yes, it's very cool, and it explained my. I'm not gonna call it bird brain. I'm not gonna say that, but I just want to try everything. I get very excited. I'm like, oh, I have an idea. I think we're gonna do this. I think we're gonna do this now. And my mom sometimes would be like, you're just a Renaissance woman. You just want to do everything. But it helps so much when I learned about that a little bit. I think, could you explain really quick, like, what human design is for anybody who's never heard of it?
Yes, because I love that. It is interesting that, and your friend was just telling you a few things, like, even when because I've done a few recently, intro, base level, like, people don't know anything about human design before going into the reading for them, or not much readings, and it's so much information. There's so much, even human design and astrology, like, even what we see, even on astro.com kind of has everything, but there's still things that you can click that we don't usually click, or like the Chani app or something. There's fixed stars and asteroids, and then there's timing techniques, and same for human design. There's so much to it, and like, from me learning it, I always say that I learned enough to keep learning, because speaking of human design, I'm a 6-2 in my profile, and which is just really how you approach things. And the 2 means, like, I want to know everything about something. But so when people start, type, strategy, and authority is just like really what people have to. It's like your big 3, but it's your big 3, but it's like nothing else makes sense unless you know those things. So the manifesting generator is your energy type. But what human design is, it's good that it's big right now. It's fairly new within, obviously astrology is ancient, and human design combines a bunch of ancient systems. It combines the zodiac and your natal chart. And your natal chart is actually how everything comes to be for your chart. Your natal chart, the chakra system, the Kabbalah tree of life, and the I Ching. And it is less up for interpretation like astrology. It really is, this is how is best for you to operate. If you operate in this way, then you're going to have just the path of least resistance for yourself. It is a practice. Not everyone is living, because like, it's really good for managing your energy and making decisions, and like really how to do things and respond to the external stimulus around you. Really what, like, it's a roadmap for. And so not everybody, when they see their chart, aren't making decisions based on what is said there. So it's like, you have to unlearn and decondition, because society wants us all to be generators, but there's 5 energy types, and unlearn and then start practicing your design.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are using it say that it really helps them understand themselves. So understand why they go through life the way they go through it, why they think the way they think. And I've seen it really help people sort it out. And also I think it's really affirming for people. They get their reading and they're like, oh, so the way I am isn't wrong, or it's not like too much. It's just, this is like who I'm supposed to be, and I'm fine with that. Like, I've seen it do that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Also, okay. So astrology, let's talk about it for a second. I don't understand it. I will never understand astrology. I know I shouldn't say that, but it's just a fact. I don't understand. And I always joke because I saw this like on Twitter or whatever. When people say Mercury is in microwave, or I always say shit like that because I really don't.
I'm an astrologer and I say that.
Okay.
Just because it's funny.
It is hilarious to me. I'm like, yeah, Mercury is in microwave. I know I'm a Gemini. I don't know my houses and like the moon and all this stuff. But my basic question here is just like, how do you not find it so complicated? I just wonder. It seems so complicated, and like it seems like there's so much to understand. So is there, I don't know where this is from, but people say there's levels to this shit. Is there just like levels to astrology? Yes. The deeper you get, the more complicated it is? Or how do you deal with this?
Yes. And yeah, but studying it is, I saw that, but it's also how I learned it, because just like human design, like, yeah, it's building blocks. So for you, yeah, as somebody who does not know a lot about astrology, I'm not going to look at, maybe I would say the interpretation, but I'm not going to look at your chart and be like, you have Neptune trine your sun in the 5th house and it's retrograde. Like, I know what all of that means. But also, unless you want to study astrology, that's on, just as people in general, that's not on, unless the consumer wants to really research it, you don't have to know everything about everything for it to be applied and to make sense. And that's why in the 80s, sun sign astrology was popularized, because people didn't really look at their sun sign as much until astrologers wanted people to start paying attention to astrology. So they went with the sun sign. And so sun, moon, and rising, starting off with that, yeah, it is layers, like, and it all makes sense. And also, this is just a key for interpretation, is you're going to have a planet that's in a sign and in a house, and those are all parts of the sky. And this planet is the what, like the action. So Mars, sex and conflict and aggression. Let's go with that. And sign is the how, is the adjective, is the style. So Mars in Scorpio, it's happy in Scorpio, but it's very deep and kinky. Like, it's Mars and Scorpio is a very kinky placement, because it just loves like things that are like, it's swamp. I just think of Scorpio as like it's in a swamp in a good way. Okay. And in the 12th house, let's say, which is all about like connection to spirit and the subconscious and like escapism and hidden stuff. So you may be that part of you may be very hidden. That's very much giving guys on Wall Street who go and then go to a dominatrix dungeon and nobody knows.
Okay. Who knows what goes on after that? Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right.
Yeah, because the house is the area of life. I don't know if I said that, but yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for giving us all that juicy information. So next, we're going to go on now to our next section here, which is our dish of the week. So today we have a couple, because we're going to be talking about a Greek goddess. So I picked some Greek foods, and I know you have a Greek background, correct? Yeah. So we're just doing some Greek stuff today. So I picked, because it's my podcast, so I picked some of my favorite Greek things. Yes, so, okay. Yeah. Yes. Loving it. I feel that way already. It's all good. Yes. Including Nikki, who's a dish in herself. We're going to eat some spanakopita. I love spanakopita. Oh, yes. I am a spinach freak. I like spinach on everything.
Me too. I love spinach.
It's so good. It goes with everything, I think. And especially if you're eating anything creamy, it goes with it.
Yes.
Yes.
I made spinach Florentine this week.
Nice. Oh God, so good. My relationship with spinach is skewed because TMI, it gives me stomach problems, but I don't care. I'm just living on the edge. I'm like, if someone, you have to eat spinach for every meal, I'd be like, no problem, let's do it. I'll be on the toilet all day, but no problem. It's awesome. Sorry, everybody does not want to know about that. Now,
Sometimes
I have a lady
make my tongue feel weird, which is probably not great, but
that's what happens to me with pineapple. My mouth gets like very itchy. So I probably have an oral allergy to pineapple, but I don't care. I'm still gonna eat pineapples all the time. Look, we're just living on the edge and we love it. It's no problem.
Yep.
So if you've never had spanakopita, you should. Trader Joe's, actually, if you don't want to make it, I get it. It involves phyllo dough. And phyllo dough is like this very thin dough. It's hard to maneuver. So if you're like, I can't do it, that's okay. Go out to your local Trader Joe's. They have very good spanakopita. And if you don't know what Trader Joe's is, it's a grocery store that's like a little fancy, but cheaper than Whole Foods. So it's really cute, and I love it, Trader Joe's. So basically, yes, it's phyllo dough, which is like a thin, flaky dough. And inside it, usually put spinach, what do they put? Feta cheese. They put some different herbs in it. Got some egg whites in here. Not egg whites, but eggs. So I put here we go. I couldn't find the recipe. Found it. Okay, so it's spinach, parsley, onions, garlic, put a little olive oil in there, some eggs, feta cheese, a little dill weed, some black pepper. And then on top, you're just going to put the phyllo dough, and then you're going to bake it and all that good stuff. And I always put everything in the show notes if you want to make it, if you want to see what it looks like, if you don't know what it looks like. So that's spanakopita. So
it's not authentic, but my mom always puts like goat cheese and walnuts in too, and it's so good.
Stop. I'll die. I love goat cheese. Like,
me too. Feta is also a goat cheese or sheep, because that's what's around. Those animals are in Greece in a lot, but
I didn't know that. What?
It's like a goat-based cheese. Yep.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Which is why it is easier to digest. It's not cow's milk.
Oh. Wow. I'm learning so much. I didn't know. So now it makes sense, because I like cheese with that bite, and goat cheese has that like bite in it.
Me too.
Aha. Look at the Lord we serve. Okay. So that is great. Now I know. Wow. And goat cheese is easier to digest because it's not cow's. Okay. I love a goat anyway.
Lactose or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you ever used like goat milk soap? It's really nice.
Yes.
Yes. I love a goat milk soap, and I always get it at like farmers markets, but it's a little expensive, so I don't always get it. I want to pay people what they're worth, but sometimes I don't have the money, but it's fine. Anyway, so on the side, so that's spanakopita. We're having a whole meal today. So we're having spanakopita. That's like our app. Now we're going to have on the side a chickpea salad. Who doesn't like a chickpea salad? It's pretty simple, and it's also always really fresh, and I feel like everybody's happy with a chickpea salad. Let's see. What are you guys going to put in your chickpea salad? Ooh, me too. They're so good. You can make it like, it's one of those things you can make a day ahead, and it's still good when you take it out. It's not like a salad that'll go brown really quick. And plus you put like lemon juice and olive oil, and that kind of preserves it a little bit of salt, black pepper, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, chickpeas, or garbanzo beans. I prefer chickpeas too, though. Little red onions, so you better bring them in because your breath's about to smell a little bit. Don't worry about it. It's going to be delicious. An avocado, some cilantro, and what we just talked about, some feta cheese. And you put that bad boy in a bowl, and you mix that bad boy up. And it's good. So that's what we're having on this. Yes. All right. And our main dish, I should have picked something else out. You can stop with the chickpea salad if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. Just stop right there. Actually, tell them not to put the feta cheese in it if you're eating it. But
there's vegan feta.
You know what? There's so much vegan cheese now, which is awesome for people who are vegans. I'm not a vegan. I am a carnivore to the max. Not really. I'm not going to act like that. But like, I'm African. I can't not eat meat, basically, or I just starve. But I did not know there was vegan feta. Okay.
Miyoko's, I think, is, the brand.
There's a lot of vegan cheese. Okay, are you a vegetarian or a vegan?
No.
Okay.
Like I want to try it all. I want to. I do have a lot of that stuff. I mix it in with my everyday, not just intentionally. Just sometimes I'm like, ooh, that looks. Yeah, I'll have a vegan cheese this week. Sure.
Absolutely. And plus, it's just fun to try those different plant-based things just to see if you like it. I have not found, have I had, the only thing I have issue is sometimes is I don't, and I've never tried it, so I can't say it works or not, but I don't know if things are going to melt the same if it's a vegan cheese. Get a little
Yeah, it
nervous
doesn't
about that.
always.
Yeah. So I'm always like, oh, I don't know. If you want to use it for cooking, I don't know. If you use it for topping, I'm sure it's fine because you're just putting it on something. But if you want to melt it, I don't know. Vegans, let us know. Let us know how that works for you. But if you're not a vegan and you want to have some lamb chops, that's what we're going to have with our chickpea salad. Yeah, like, if you go to most like Mediterranean restaurants, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be Greek, but they have a good ass lamb chop. Oh, I love a lamb chop. So you can put anything on a lamb chop. You can season however you want. Olive oil. Here we go with some more lemon juice because why not? We got some oregano, we got some garlic, we got some salt, we got some black pepper, and we got some olive oil. So that is what we'll have for our main dish.
I was hoping it was lamb. Yes.
Yeah. Lamb forever. Lamb is best. And then we're going to wash it down with one of my least favorite liquors, but we got to have it. It's ouzo.
Same. I don't like sambuca. I will have the one that I'll have at the like at Asian restaurants, like sure. But yeah, because I don't like any anis. Well, yeah, there's so much of anisette or whatever it is. Like just there's the Greek like Christmas cookies that have this icing that's like that. Yeah, don't like those flavors, but you have no choice. You have to have ouzo.
Basically, that's it. So there is, like, not far from where I live, like maybe 20-25 minutes, there's a Greek Orthodox church, and every year they have a fair. So we and my friend, we went one year, and it was cute, and like we watched all the kids. They do like these traditional dances, and these costumes are adorable. And then there was just a whole bunch of cool stuff there. So we went, and this guy was just like, oh, are you over 21? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, here you go. This is a Greek liquor, basically. I didn't know what it was at all. He didn't tell me it was ouzo. He just said it was Greek liquor. I was like, okay. So he's like, all right, cheers. So like we cheers to each other, and then I just downed it. And he's, wait. And I was like, what? He's like, stop. And I said, what do you mean stop? I just drank it. Oh, no. It was so funny. First of all, I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
Yes, and then thank God my friend had driven. Within 2 seconds, I was tipsy.
It is, yeah. I brought back, when I went in 2015 to Athens, a ouzo in a little glass that like looks like the Acropolis, of course. And and I brought it back to my dorm, and I was like, yeah, I'll have this ouzo for a party one night, and woo!
It is a lot. I was like, ooh, girl. So yes, like I never can say it. It's anise.
I don't know. Yeah, anisette. Anise. I think anise. No, anise sounds like a name. Anisette is at least how.
Anisette. Okay. Yeah. Anisette, or if nobody knows what that is, because I didn't for the longest minute, it tastes like black licorice. Yeah. That taste. My mom loves black licorice, but she doesn't really like alcohol, so she wouldn't like it. But yeah, it's really strong. I think it's like 45% alcohol. It's 90 proof. So you have one shot and you're like, ooh, you feel it. You're supposed to sip it according to the man who gave it to me, which I didn't do. And he was like, oh, you'll be all right. Just take a seat. I was like, okay. Don't worry. I was like, all right.
Like Everclear.
I know. Basically, it was like, ooh. I was like, damn, okay. This is a lot, but it's fine. Everything was fine in the end, so I didn't drive, and it was fine. But that's something everyone should experience, even if you don't like it. Just try it, because it's fun. So those are our dishes of the week. Oh, the next thing I do is, this is a part of the show where I plug myself. So my name's Ashley, and this is my podcast. And if you really like it, just pause right now and go and give us a 5-star rating. You can write a little review if you'd like. You can do this on any app that you Listen to us on whether it's Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever. It helps people find us. Also, you can go and follow us on Instagram at Dine at the Divine. You can follow us on Facebook at the same name, Dine with the Divine. And you can follow us on TikTok. I haven't posted anything yet, but feel free to come on. And if so, it's one of those things I feel like people talk about all the time now. They're like, oh, I'm doing shadow work. I'm doing shadow work. But nobody's like ever explains what it is. And I hate when stuff like that happens because of like everyone's just like wants to say it, but nobody's talking about what it is. And there's lots of people who may not have no idea what it is. We're just going to talk a little bit about shadow work and what it means and what it is. Nikki, why don't you tell us first, what does shadow work mean for you?
Yes. So shadow work, so the shadow is, you may, along with people saying that they're doing shadow work, you may either hear the term shadow expression of a certain energy. Like in astrology, every sign has two energies to it, which is, and people only focus on, which is what I hate, a lot of times the shadow quote unquote expressions of certain energies. And but there's also gifts, like where Virgo can see things that not everyone else is going to see, and makes systems in their head, and things make sense and have a place to go. And then the shadow part can just be when you're a little too over controlling with that. So the shadow expression and like our shadow. So I describe it's something that's within us. I also do a lot of my work through the lens of parts work of, oh, there's a part of you that wants this, and there's a part of you that wants this, and they're all valid and they're all invited to the party, and they all have a reason and can work together. But it's a part of us, and it's a few different things that I say, whether it's something that somebody hasn't, maybe something that like somebody isn't proud of, like a tendency. It's like a tendency that they know they quote unquote shouldn't do, but they do. Something that, it can be relational, like if a creator that you watch, if you quote unquote hate watch them, they trigger you in some way. Likely they're exemplifying something that you wish you could do, or like secretly deep down, or that you think that you do and you're insecure that you do it. So like insecurities. It really is when, with like the spectrum, every single behavior has a spectrum, and it's when you go on the side of the spectrum that is causing you to do behaviors that don't make you feel good or don't make others feel good. And it's likely, and this is where the shadow work part comes in, it's like there's a reason you're doing that. You're hiding from something, or you have the belief that it's not okay to be the opposite thing, or you're overcompensating for something, and it's showing up as like a shadowy behavior because you have a belief from how you were brought up that it's not okay to be one thing, so you're trying really hard in the other direction. It's not about getting rid of that part of you forever. I just don't see that as like realistic. You're going through life, you're human, and things are going to be re-triggered within you. So it's really about not being afraid of it and not hiding from it. So like sitting with it and getting curious about it and understanding why it's there, and then understanding what behaviors you do that are related to it, and then having like tools for when it comes up, whether that's self-soothing, or whether that is let's unpack this, or whether that's like interrelational tools. And then also that's why I like to use hypnotherapy and energy healing, because that's they're healing that part of you so that it's less present. That neural pathway isn't as strong. It's not going to be your first instinct.
Yes, I so agree with you. It's never going to go away, whatever your shadow side is. But there also is, I feel like, number one, like you said, if your healing helps people to figure out this is not the first way I have to react to things. And also sometimes your shadow self, I always think of it also as like your fight or flight response. Like, it's necessary to have a fight or flight response. That's because the way humans have evolved from time when we were Neanderthals, you had to be scared of a bear so that you would leave the area if you saw one, like, because that was not good. But it's not good to live in that fight or flight response. That's super, super unhealthy. But what you can do is, for instance, let's take an emotion like rage. A lot of people may have rage, and you may have rage from whatever it is. Maybe it could be trauma. It could be just growing up in a house where there was a lot of rage where you thought that was normal, whatever. But you can use your rage in healthy ways. For instance, I think of people who play sports. A lot of people who play sports, maybe they have an issue with, not everybody obviously, but some people use their anger or aggression in a way that is more controlled, that actually becomes something that they can be proud of. They're accomplishing something. Same thing with most forms of art. A lot of people have certain emotions and then they use art as a form of expressing their emotion or transmuting that to something that is tangible and makes sense, that they can see and they can analyze. So everything you said makes perfect sense. And I just want to go into something else that you said. We talk about a little bit about how the shadow self comes up for people. So first of all, everything Nikki said was very well articulated. And I'm just going to add that I found a really good article I put in the show notes. We can call the subconscious mind, this is from the article, we can call the subconscious mind the shadow because we cannot clearly see it, and thus we're not completely aware of it. And the conscious mind, I meant the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is akin to the light because we can see it clearly and we're aware of it. Sometimes our shadow sides are really deep within us, but like I was saying, it can actually be a strength if you learn how to use it. And some ways that it can come up, and Nikki already talked about this, but I'm just reiterating, is number one, in projection. Like she said, if you see somebody else do something and you're like, "Ugh, I don't like that," or "Ugh, that's like bothering me." Sometimes it's because it's something you do, and you know for yourself, you don't like that behavior that you have. It can be a trigger. Trigger is similar. You see something and you're like, "Oh, this is really bothering me." And sometimes it's because it's something that someone has done to you that now brings out a certain emotion or makes you feel a certain way and you can't deal with that. Or patterns. And I always think of shadow selves, and a lot of people say, like, with relationships. Sometimes somebody will say, "I don't know, I keep dating the same person over and over and over." And sometimes it's because you are, and I'm not saying it's always that person's fault, but we might display certain behaviors that attract certain kinds of people. And those people may be, okay, I'm not even going to go into it. You may attract toxic people sometimes in your life because you have certain behaviors. And until you start to recognize those behaviors, you will just keep attracting those toxic people and toxic relationships. That happens very often to a lot of people. So there's a lot of value in looking at your shadow self. That's why we have people like Nikki to help us do that. Another quote we have from this article that I liked was said, "While many spiritual teachers, life coaches, and psychologists love shadow work and feel like it can improve a person's life, others believe that it's not beneficial. They will believe that when you go looking for dark things, you will find more dark things." Yeah, but why not?
Yeah, okay, and then you can, okay, that was there. I'm like, okay.
Me and you both had the same face. Yeah, and? Yeah.
Yeah, and you would rather just that be hidden and you just not be aware of that, and you wouldn't, and yeah, then you can work with it if you find it. That's the point. Yeah.
So I didn't put all this in my little notes, but This brings me to another subject that I think we should just touch on because it annoys me, and let's talk about it because I feel like it probably annoys you too. Spiritual bypassing. Can we stop? Let's just stop.
Hey, stop.
Just stop, please. Just stop. So, what spiritual bypassing is what I used to call, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I used to call them the love and lighters.
Yeah.
I hope nobody is offended by that. If you're a love and lighter, that you like to say that, that's totally fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I used to know a lot of people, you know, and you probably do too, Nikki. Like when you're in this space, a lot of people are just like, oh, I wish you love and light. I wish you love and light. I'm like, first of all, you haven't solved any of my problems. None. We haven't discussed any of the things that are bothering me. I used to know like a woman who did Reiki, and this was her thing. She was just like, I do Reiki and it's fine. And I'm like, okay, but do you talk to your clients? She's like, no, I just do the Reiki and it just goes. I'm like, girl, there's no way in any spiritual space, I don't think. I think most practitioners would agree with us. And from your grown, Nikki, I think you agree with this too. That there's no healing comes without going through what you need to heal. Nobody can help you when you don't want to talk about it. And I do want to say it's totally okay to not be ready to talk about something. That's fine. Everybody's on their own journey. But when you are ready, if you go to a practitioner and they're just like, I'm just going to put my hands above your head about 2 inches, and then in 10 minutes, you're going to feel amazing and you're cleansed and everything is fine. That's a lie. You're not. Maybe you will feel good for a few days, even maybe a week, but it's going to come back up because you didn't actually sort through anything. You just did that. And that's what spiritual bypassing is. And I feel like a lot of people, okay, sorry, a lot of people make a lot of money off of doing that. And it annoys me. That's all I want to say about that.
Oh, yeah. This is not like, this is controversial. No, because it's controversial for people who do it. And yeah. They're like, I want to be doing that. It's a Band-Aid. Even if there's healing done to, I'm like, what are they even healing? Like when I think of Reiki healing, I think of physical and emotional damage. And if they're quote unquote healing a pattern, which through Reiki, then, but you still think that that's still like what you're still going to act that way because you haven't unpacked why. You're just going to keep doing it and then it's going to keep happening.
Exactly. And nothing gets solved. A lot of spiritual, like any type of spiritual, even emotional, we can talk about emotional healing, right? Even going to a therapist, if you're just doing like therapy for your mental health, if you're trying to move on from something or move forward from something, there's usually pain involved because whatever you're trying to move forward from upset you in some way. And that's why you want to get away from it, right? You have to work through things. If somebody's just saying just journal and then you never discuss what you journal, that's not helping you. And it's the same thing for any spiritual practitioner. If you're just going to somebody and they keep seeing you and they keep seeing you and you're like, I still feel this way and I still think this way, and the person isn't talking you through it, they're just like giving you a quartz crystal to hold, doesn't not helping. Yeah, and there's usually a little, and like we're talking about shadow work. This is digging into a part of you, like you said before, Nikki, that maybe you don't like, that maybe this is something about yourself that you're like, this part of me is not I'm not being my best self when I'm my shadow self. Most people aren't. And the whole point of digging into it is to see how can I adjust my behavior for myself to make my life better and to make me feel better about myself so I don't feel that this part of me is necessarily going to come out uncontrollably or I can't deal with it and I can't handle it. And also, how can I do this also probably for the people around me? Maybe there's people in your life who are like, bruh, you go into rages and you need to literally chill yourself out. You're putting in holes in your wall and stuff because you can't deal with it. So shadow work is super important. And while spiritual bypassing does make people feel good in the moment, and I think sometimes because of the way we are as a society right now, people are looking for that instantaneous healing. There really isn't such thing. It's all a process. and it's all something that you have to go through. It's all something that you have to think a lot about, and it sucks. But when you come out the other side is when you're like, okay, you're like, see, this actually kind of works. It just takes time.
Yeah, it's even more satisfying when you are like, oh, I was able to bring myself through that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I feel like that's the thing. It's like anything that you really work through or you really put a lot of work into, when you bring yourself out of it, you're like, oh, I did that for myself. I did that for me.
Okay.
And maybe you may think this is something I never was going to be able to deal with, and I thought I could never move forward. But when you come out and you're like, damn, I'm way stronger than I am, it's 10 times more rewarding than feeling good, feeling like you've been quote unquote cleared by somebody who just waved some garden sage in your face for 10 minutes and you feel cleared for a week. But when you do that deep healing and you're like, no, these are strategies and this is healing I can carry for the rest of my life. That shit feels amazing. Yes. Oh, okay. What was the other thing I want to say about shadow work? Oh, one more thing to say about shadow work. Is this another quote? I read that. Shadow work is simply becoming aware of what's hidden and gradually healing those aspects of yourself. And a couple ways you can integrate your shadow. These are 5 things, but obviously if you see a practitioner, somebody like Nikki or somebody else, we go way more into this. But some of the ways people integrate their shadow is they can go over their childhood and figure out maybe where it was that this thing came about or why, whether it had to do with your family, whether it had to do with people in your neighborhood, whatever, a fear, something like that. Becoming aware of your shadow, which is like the hardest thing for most people, is just being aware and acknowledging the fact that this is something I struggle with and I don't know. There was a time in my life where I had a lot of anger, but I would be like, I'm not angry. I'm like the most positive, happy person you've ever met. Meanwhile, I was mad as hell. Like, I just didn't want to ever talk about it. But once I actually started to acknowledge, I was like, yeah, I'm mad about 7 different things. Like, it felt so good at the end. I cried a lot, but once I was done crying, it was great. It was so good. I cried so much. Yeah, I know, right? But after just this first step of acknowledging things, just how people do in different groups, whether it's like Alcoholics Anonymous or anything, the first step to ever healing anything is acknowledging that it's a problem. So just acknowledge your problems, everybody. It's going to be fine. And then don't shame your shadow. Oh, sorry, Nikki, were you going to say something?
I just wish that I feel like I'm just shaking my fist every day. Everyone acknowledge your problems.
Me too. I'm like, this is a problem and we all need to talk about it. Let's just talk about it. Like, we're all going to be fine if we just acknowledge it. Oh, and the other thing is don't shame your shadow, which is super important too. You don't have to be ashamed of first of all, everybody has problems. Nobody is their best self all the time. You can think of your favorite inspirational person. Like, off the top of my head, I think of Jay Shetty, because he's like always, I like him a lot. I will watch his videos and stuff, and I'm sure he has days where he's just, damn it, everything sucks today, and I really don't want to do anything, and I'm gonna be an asshole. I'm sure we all have days. Some days I'm like, be a little bitchy. I'm like, here I go.
But yeah, just admitting it. I always say to, like, when I'm talking to friends, or really what happens a lot of the time in coaching sessions is when you just say something out loud and then it's not festering in your brain and body anymore. And so if you are acknowledging that you're not being yourself or whatever, instead of by just saying that and naming it, and then you're not, like, again, shaming yourself and just being like, everyone hates me because I'm being so mean today.
Exactly. Facts. I get very worried that everyone hates me because I'm being mean. Usually I'm not even being that mean. Yeah, but like for 2 seconds I'm like, God, everyone thinks I'm the worst today. Jesus Christ. It's terrible. Use your triggers. So you can find ways to use your triggers to, like, almost, you can almost, I'm not going to say trick, but you can use your triggers and look at them and acknowledge them, and then you can make them into a different emotion, or you can learn how you're going to handle that emotion when you do see those triggers, and observe yourself without judgment, because that's how you can start to properly analyze and figure out what you feel like you need, where you need to make changes or what you need to heal. But integrating your shadow, the big thing here is give yourself grace. Everyone, give yourself a little grace. Okay? Everybody, you can't be your best self all the time. Nobody's perfect. Everyone's going through something at some point. So just do your best to your best ability. When you're ready to acknowledge or move through something, do that. But if you're not ready, if you need to take time, just do that. Everyone, just give yourself a minute. That's my big, I feel like that's I want to put that on my gravestone. It'll just say, give yourself a minute. Yeah. Everyone, it's fine.
Acknowledge your problems and give yourself a minute. I'm also always going around just being like, just give yourself, just be nice to yourself.
Exactly, because who else is going to do it? Sometimes nobody's going to be nice to you, and that's fine. Okay, so now we're going to do our little story. But this week's story is not so much of a story because there's not a lot of stories about this person. I'm just going to talk about this goddess because she's so cool and I just really enjoy talking about her. So when we're talking about shadow work, so I was like, okay, let's talk about a dark goddess. A lot of times when people think of a dark goddess, they think like Hecate, they think Kali or the Morgan. But this goddess is before all of that. She was this is the original, okay? So this goddess we're going to talk about Nyx. So Nyx is the Greek goddess of the night. Nyx is the night. That's how big of a deal she is. She's not the goddess of the night. She's just the night. She is the night. Yes. It's very cool. So the thing about Nyx is that she is a primordial goddess. She is the oldest goddess, basically. And I'll explain we'll just explain that in relation to Zeus. Most people have heard of Zeus. Zeus is a Greek god. Zeus is a king of the Olympians, and he lives in the heavens. Now, before Zeus was Zeus, his daddy was Kronos, and his mama was Rhea. And there's a whole story, we'll talk about it another time. But Kronos and Rhea had a bunch of kids, Hera, and a bunch of Zeus's brothers and sisters. Anyway, Kronos was trying to eat all his kids, but Zeus, he was the last one, so Rhea hit him. Just know that Zeus went and he conquered Kronos and a bunch of Kronos' siblings and put them in Tartarus. That's where he put the Titans. Kronos was a Titan. So there was a big war between the Olympians and the Titans, and the Olympians got to go up and the Titans had to go to Tartarus, which was they were banished over there. Again, we'll tell that story another time. So Kronos' parents, this is Zeus's parents. Kronos' parents were Uranus and Gaia. Gaia being the earth and Uranus being the sky. And they both were made from chaos. Chaos was the void. It's the original. It was nothingness, basically. And out of nothingness, the first thing that came out of the nothingness was Nyx, night. So that's how old Nyx is. She is the queen of night. She's super, super powerful. She was the first one, like I said, that came out of chaos. Ooh. The second, nuts. The second thing that came out of chaos was Erebus, and Erebus is Nyx's partner in life. Erebus is darkness. So Nyx is night, Erebus is darkness. Nyx and Erebus got together because they were the only two. There's a lot of weird incest in all mythologies, but just know they were the only two at the point. Who else were they gonna bang? So they came out, and that's what happened. She's often seen as wearing a black veil studded with stars, which I think is really pretty. So her and her partner. So in some stories, it says her and Erebus gave birth, but in some stories, they say that Nyx did it all by herself. I think Nyx did it by herself because she's that powerful. She just made more people. So Nyx and Erebus, they made Aether and Hemera. And so Aether is light. So Aether and Hemera. So one of the stories, not really a story, but one of the things they say is that Nyx and Erebus live in the same house as Aether and Hemera, but they never see each other because as one leaves, the others come. So that makes perfect sense, day and night. So Nyx also gave birth to a whole bunch of other kids. And again, we think maybe she made them by herself, but we don't know. These children of Nyx are so powerful that even the Olympian gods, Zeus and all his brothers and sisters, they're afraid of them. That's how powerful they are. So some of her kids are Hypnos, which is sleep, Eris, which is strife, Nemesis, revenge, the Morai, which were the fates or the furies. Oh, and the furies. Morpheus, which is dreaming, Momus, ridicule, Eris, conflict, Moros, doom, Thanatos, which is death, and Philotis, which is friendship, which is really random. I was like, okay.
They wanted to throw a nice one in there, or happy.
I know, she like made all these kids, and then she's like, I'm gonna make like a cute one.
Yeah.
Friendship. That's adorable. And I love that. So the one story I found, it's very short. One time Hera decided that she was getting annoyed with Zeus because he was messing up the Trojan War for her. I don't know. We'll tell that story another time too. Yeah. So, Hera, okay. We're not going to talk about Hera right now, but poor Hera. But also Hera was like the worst. Hera was the woman who, because Zeus was always like sleeping around with other gods and stuff, and nymphs, and Zeus was sleeping with everybody. And Hera was like Hera was his wife, but she was always mad at the other girl. And it's like, Hera, don't be that girl. Hera, girl, you're not mad at your husband. She's always tricking people and mad at him. Even like Hercules, again, we'll tell this story later, but Hercules, the reason he went through so much was because Hera was mad that he was born. And it was not Hercules' fault he was born. Zeus had cheated with someone else, and Hera's, hate you, Hercules. I'm going to do all this terrible shit to you. So I'm like, Hera,
she's not a feminist.
Hera is... God, I feel old right now. What do they call? Oh, Hera's a pick-me. Yeah. Yes. Hera is the ultimate pick-me, and it's Hera, please stop. Like, stand up for yourself and stand up for women.
Yes, come on.
Hera has like an Instagram page that's like about men's rights, and it's like, Hera?
Yes, she's on those. Her and Zeus have a podcast.
And they talk about how like men are so oppressed, especially straight men. It's so hard for straight men. Like, they want Zeus is, can you believe that women want us to like work hard and be nice to them and be partners? How dare they? And Hera's, I know, I just live to serve. You know what I mean? This whole thing is going on my head.
And it's number 2 on Spotify.
It totally is. And Andrew Tate's like their best guest. Yep. He comes on every other week. He just talks about how like women, like, oh, if you're not like a 10, I don't even look at you. And Zeus is for real. And Hera's, I know, like, women need to keep themselves up, like, for real. So, oh my God.
Yeah, what are they wearing these days?
Like, I just think it's really important to be modest. You know what I mean? I don't want other men looking at me like when I have a boyfriend or a husband. Like, it's just not cool. Shut up, Hera. Hera. Bitch. Just kidding. Oh my God, I love that. It's number 2 on Spotify. My God, it comes on right like Joe Rogan advertises for them. Yeah. Yep.
Just underneath Joe Rogan.
This is
and
like
Call Daddy's right below.
Oh. I once, like, one time in my life tried to listen to like part of Joe Rogan's podcast because somebody else had mentioned, oh, Joe Rogan's an idiot, listen to this part. And I was like, okay. So I tried for 15 minutes. I was like, this is awful. Why do people like this podcast?
Yeah, I steer clear. I can't.
It's awful. I was like, this is not good. First of all, and I like long. There's one podcast I love, Hardcore History. It's like a 10-hour podcast. I don't care. It's good. But his podcasts are all 3 hours of just him going on and on about nothing. and
Yeah.
then like interviewing assholes, and I'm just like, I can't. Sorry. Okay, got off topic. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So Hera was meddling in the war because she was like, "Oh, Zeus, you're not doing this right," and she got Hypnos to come, and she was like, "Hypnos, I need you to put Zeus to sleep so I can go do whatever I want to do with this Trojan War." And Hypnos is no problem. I love to play some tricks on people. So he goes and he puts Zeus to sleep for a while. So then eventually Zeus wakes up and he's, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Who put me to sleep?" "Oh, it said damn Hypnos." So he goes running after Hypnos, and he was like, "I'm gonna kick his ass." But then Hypnos, he went and he's like, "Mom, hide me from Zeus." and Nyx was like, "No problem, hide within me. I am dark.
Yep.
I am night." So he goes and hides within his mom. And then Zeus came and Nyx came out and she's like, "Have we got a problem?" And Zeus was like, "Absolutely not, ma'am. I am so sorry." This is why they say the only goddess Zeus is afraid of is Nyx. Because the one time he tried it, Nyx was like, "Come back here again, fuck around and find out. I'll tell you what's really up." And he was like, "No problem. I won't be back, ma'am. I'm so sorry I bothered you. Have a good night." And he left. So that's how powerful Nyx was. He never tried to mess with her at all. And the one thing I love about Nyx is she protects people who work in the night. So some people say she's a wonderful goddess for sex workers. She's a goddess for, sometimes people say thieves, but also anybody who works in the night, who needs protection in the night. And witches, a lot of people say she's one of the original goddesses of witches, because she helps people who work in the night and need to get through the night, and she protects them. So that's my little thing about Nyx this week.
Ooh.
I think I put a little thing in the show notes. There was somebody on TikTok, this guy, I think his name is Brief Ed, and he has little videos and I love it. So I put his video in the show notes too. But yeah, so that's my little story about Nyx, and she's fantastic, and we stand for Nyx.
Yeah, I'm glad that she's very related to shadow work too, and like the void. I love talking about the void, and like she seems like a baddie, so I'll be checking her out.
Pretty much, because she was like, "I'm gonna have babies, but I don't need this dude. I'll have him around, I guess, but I'm gonna do it." And I guess he was like, "Okay, you're the most powerful goddess on earth. I'll do whatever you want." Like, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't question me. Okay, so that brings us to the end. So I'm so happy that you were here, Nikki, and that you came to chat with us. So I always want to make sure that you tell people on one of my other favorite podcasts, she always says this, where do you want to be found on the internet?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was so much fun. I loved it. Thank you for having me. Love the conversation and like all of the segments, and I learned so much.
Me too.
So on TikTok and Instagram, I am my name NIKI_VERGAKES. And that's TikTok and Instagram. And I am this summer, I am like I said in the beginning, it's like just my business journey. I've just now honored like really how my offerings are shifting and just honoring what the kind of work I actually want to do. So I don't know when it'll be out, but I'm taking the time to like rebrand and work on a membership and the launch of the membership. And a lot of the pieces are already there, but yeah, there's going to be a business track and a healing track. And the business track also has some healing because, again, that's what we do here. And there'll be a VIP upgrade for one-on-one or whatever I'll call it. But people can always still work with me one-on-one, and you just book a subconscious assessment. And then I also do human design and astrology readings as well. And I am going to be upping my content game with that as well, and just being even more consistent. And yeah, Instagram and TikTok is where you can find me.
Yay! Okay, go and follow her so you can be updated on everything that she comes out with in the summer, so you can see all her content. She's super cute. So you just go look at her being cute. Whatever you want to do, it all works. Okay, that's our show. This is Dine with the Divine. You can follow us on TikTok. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook. And you can also email me at dinewiththedivinepod@gmail.com if you have anything to let me know. And if you want to follow me, Ashley, I'm Sankofa HS. That's SANKOFAHS on Instagram. And I'm Sankofa Healing Sanctuary on Facebook. So yeah, that's our show for today. And thank you so much, Nikki, for coming. And I hope all of you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next week.